throttle hold comes here, idle up comes here. I've swapped those round inside, physically plugged them into the other connectors. Done that with all the XK stuff.
Hey up YouTube, today we're going to take a look at the K130, XK's latest and largest micro heli to date. The parts count and layout are almost identical to the K110 and K120, but upsized slightly with aluminium hardware where needed, and of course a bigger main and tail motor to help swing those larger blades. It's still 2S like the K120, but instead of super aggressive head speed, XK wisely chose a more torque oriented setup. This was my first flight a couple of weeks ago, and as you can see it's pretty capable, but also that flights are fairly short, so this is one you're going to certainly want extra lipos for. And it seems XK agree with that and actually offer a 1, 2 or 3 lipo RTF packages. Of course it's available bind and fly as well, but there's an issue there. If you already own an X6 and you want it to bind with that, it's not gonna. It'll bind with any other multi-protocol options and it's fine with the XK it comes with, but there's some issue, I don't quite know exactly what it is, requiring a firmware upgrade on the X6 for any other models if you want to fly the K130. Unfortunately at this time it's not available to us and apparently can only be done in China if you send the transmitter to them. I could also feel that the tail wasn't as perfect as its smaller brothers, especially after the first 1.5 to 2 minutes flight. In an attempt to keep this review compact and structured, I'm going to separate this into 2 sections, Flyability and Crashability. I'll also be making comparisons to the other XK helis since they are so relevant, so if you want to know a little bit more about them, there's playlists in the description for the K100, K110 and K120. First up, Flyability. Now this is going to be different for each pilot, but can be broken down pretty well to cover all skill levels by stability, agility and tail performance. As with all XK helis, there's 6G mode for new pilots and people progressing from fixed pitched and coax helis. This keeps the heli level when controls are released and prevents the heli from banking past a certain angle. This is about 30 degrees. This wasn't working perfectly out of the box and I had some right and forward lean, but this was due to the mechanical setup not being quite perfect. Once that was set up right, 6G worked perfectly without any calibration, and of course you could just ignore that and calibrate it anyway, but I do advise a proper setup if it's not perfect.
Okay, so 6G is active at the moment. The max rates you're going to get that. It's probably actually about 45 degrees, not 30. Yeah. Into the wind, maybe 30. Sorry, into the wind, maybe 45, a little bit less out. Now, one of the things I wanted to check, if you flick to 6G, so if you start off in 6G mode, and then you flick to 3G, and then you flick back to 6G, it won't actually go back into 6G. So if you need a 6G flight, you're going to have to start off like that. And if you put it inverted, and then click 6G, it doesn't do anything, it won't stabilize, and you can't get back into 6G until you land.
Then there's pirouette compensation. This helps keep the heli level, but only while pirouetting, and works great. It doesn't fight inputs like 6G though, and it feels very smooth and organic at all speeds. CG deserves a mention here too. It's still ever so slightly tail heavy, but really close to perfect, and you can't tell in flight. Just make sure that if it does feel tail heavy to you, your battery's pressed in fully.
Okay, now CG with this thing is pretty much spot on. However, the battery doesn't like to seat all the way down easily. With the canopy off it's pretty clear, but with the canopy on, which is generally what it's going to be like, it pushes into there and doesn't push any further. If you push slightly up on the battery there, just ever so slightly, and then push it in, it'll slip that last way, but it'll be tail heavy considerably if it's not pushed in all the way. And one weird thing I've noticed with this version of the X6 that comes with the 130, if you don't have throttle or switches in the right place and you turn it on, it's going to beep at you. But putting those switches back and the stick down doesn't do anything. So you have to actually power down and power back on again with switches and the sticks in the right place. No idea why my other X6 don't have this, but also other X6 won't work with this heli. If you want the X6 to fly with this, you have to buy the version that comes with this. Yeah, I know.
And because of this, the K130 is an absolute dream to do pirouetting moves with. Pirouetting loops, pirouetting circuits, reverse pirouetting circuits, anything pirouetting where the tail is moving constantly, the tail holds perfectly. It's smooth to start, smooth to stop, and the CG, as I say, it makes these super smooth. They're just a complete joy to do. And of course a bigger disc is inherently more stable. It's also more stable in wind than its smaller, lighter brothers, but where it really leaves others behind is how stable the disc is on hard stops like tic-tocs, rainbows and pitch pumps. Both of these are often where micro-heli performance suffers. We could also include tail performance under stability, but since that's so important, we'll address that fully in a moment. Agility. This one's pretty straightforward, as you can dial in what you want on the X6, but aileron tic-tocs are possible even on low rates. Some people might even want to put it under stability, because if you turn the rates down, it's super tame. If high rates at 100 aren't enough for you, you can push that right up to a perky 125. Same goes with the yaw speed too, both of which are enough to satisfy me personally. Tail performance. Now this one's a big one, and normally where XK helis perform stellar, being smooth and precise and hold well. With the K100, 110 and 120, when they do start to blow when pushed hard, they even do that smoothly and predictably, making it relatively easy to get it back in line. This is where the stock 130 shows its main weakness, and where nose first flight, pitch pumps and elevated tic-tocs are no issue at all, it will easily move out of line in tail first flight, especially if not slow. The worst case though is with aileron tic-tocs, where just 3 to 4 reps will turn the heli a full or 180 degrees. Also screams loudly when stressed all, which will happen hovering even side on in the wind. This generally means it needs a bigger prop, which makes sense when you find out that XK felt it appropriate to use the same tail blade the smaller K120 uses on a heavier, larger heli. They did at least provide a bigger tail motor, and luckily for us, a larger tail blade is effective in sorting these inadequacies. It's got a 1.2mm shaft though, so most options will need widening, and of course a 1.5 standard drill bit is too wide to see a in place.
Okay. Really pushing it then, like putting it right on its side. I got it to, well, it wasn't quite a 180, but it popped round. Whoa. Okay. After the first couple of minutes, right rudder inverted, the tail sort of understeers. Left rudder inverted, it drags a little wide. Okay, definitely no power now, so I need to like time my flights better. Definitely need to time my flights better, but it feels like it's a short flight. I really do feel like I have to get everything in the first couple of minutes.
I did some testing with other tail blades and flying in heavy wind, which we'll take a look at towards the end, but since that's not with the stock setup, we're going to take a look at crashability. Now, while we can't expect XK's largest 2S heli to be as durable as their smaller 1S K110, I was hoping it was going to trump the awesome but rather fragile 2S K120. Most important for me is being able to hit throttle hold over grass and not sustain any damage as the heli falls under its own weight. And I'm very happy to say this is the case, and removing power before a crash rarely sustains any damage. I must have done this as many times as forced ones from flying too long and not having enough power, and none of them sustained any damage at all.
What? See, that was the first throttle hold. Throttle hold to crash, I guess you could call it. Throttle hold over grass. I managed to flip it over anyway, and certainly got all the power out of that, so there's not going to be any issues. But I still am very curious about the durability of this thing, because it's effectively a K120, but it doesn't feel like there's as much head speed. It's more like torque and large blade that's providing the performance here. And let's just see what happens. We've got throttle hold from there. I don't think there's going to be any damage if you're doing that. That would have taken the K110 out. It definitely hasn't got enough torque for that. We're coming down, we're coming down, we're coming down. Oh! Please don't be a servo. It's not a servo. Okay. Oh! That blew pretty violently on me again. It's after about a minute and a half. But I was pushing it as hard as I can. I don't think we're going to have any servos broken there. That was as mellow as it comes down into grass. Ah!
However, put it in with power applied, especially inverted, and you'll be stripping one or more servos and possibly servo horns most times.
Okay. So yes, the hole in the left servo here, it's got a little split at the end there where this has popped out. See if I can pop it back in. I mean, I went in, I had some power there, but I was pitched in fairly hard and I caught the grass. But that's taken two servos out. Yeah, back one I can tell is just stripped. That left one is jammed. So I'll open up these servos and we'll have a little look inside and see what the state of affairs is, which gears go, because the Mini CP used to strip gears relatively easily, but they were super cheap and really easy to replace, and they always went in the same, pretty much always went in the same place. Also curious about the Trex 150 servos. Are they compatible with the XK stuff? I've been curious for a while and never actually got around to testing it, so we will do that.
The head took a couple of fairly firm abrupt stops before I managed to bend the feathering shaft, and these don't come as spares.
Oh no, 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 no. Okay, my right servo looks good, my back servo looks good, my left servo does not. And that's the one with the broken horn, so I think I've just turned the gears around on that one.
They are very quick to swap and also affordable at only about £1 each. Plus they can be fitted with just 2 Phillips screwdrivers and some thread lock. Beyond that, the only actual damage was the upper part of the skid strut as it connects to the frame, which was easily mended with thread and CA for less than 1 gram weight and much stronger than before.
Basically we've got 3 stacks of gears and there's metal posts through each one. Sometimes they come out in the lid, sometimes they stay in there, it just kind of depends, but you'll see that third little gear. Well, actually you've got 4 stacks because there's an initial motor output gear here, and then you've got a little stack, medium stack, let's call that the middle stack, and then the big stack. Okay, we've got that guy back into place now. Now in my experience, the only gears that are going to break are this output gear around here or the top splines on this top middle gear here. I haven't managed to break any of the other gears yet, just these. Now as you'll see, I've got 1 tooth missing on this one and there's 2 missing on this one. This is really close to the maximum we'd be able to do this, but if you plug it in, put everything at mid pitch and then face the gap that you've got on the teeth on this middle top gear here, face it right, and the gap that you've got on this top outermost gear, this third stack, the biggest gear of the lot, point that left, and that's at mid pitch as well. Then when you plug it in, you'll be able to move your collective up and down and see if your range is okay. Now don't expect perfect servo movement like here because there's nothing keeping those shafts perfectly aligned, so it will twitch and what have you, but obviously put it in throttle hold, but you'll be able to see I'm not quite reaching the gear on this one. Just make sure you put the collective at the bottom and then move your side click left and right as well, so you can see the full exchange. So you can see it's not really grabbing there, but far left and far right on your rudder with the collective right up to the top. Just make sure you hit all 4 corners so you see in full extent with collective minimum and maximum. Now if you manage to get that right, and 1 tooth is not so bad, 2's pushing it. I think the output gear you could probably lose 3. Pop the servo case back on, and now you'll be able to see whether the stacks are going to move properly or have a glitch. So let's have a look, see how well I've got that. No problems with the main movement. Okay, so I'll leave collective at the bottom. Rudders at the bottom going left and right. Seems okay. Move it to the top. Left and right. What do you know? So that servo is ready for another crash. Good stuff. So these Trex 150 servos, I had some spare gears for these because I used to squish them pretty much, but I haven't upgraded to metal gear on them. These fit and work perfectly. Certainly regarding the top 2 gears in the output stacks, the middle stack and the big stack. So I could only presume that the metal gear options work well for this. So we should be able to get metal gear servos within the original servo that come with this heli. I forgot to say, if you're testing the back one here, make sure you're doing max and min collective, but it'll be vertical axis, not horizontal, to get the full range like the others. That's another one. Ready to crash again. Now I think after the next flight I'm going to put the Emax servos in there that I've got on my K120 because they just seem way more torquey and faster at response. But this, perfectly workable T150 gears. Also the servo horns. This one I managed to break. T150 servo horns work perfect. The hull is maybe like 1/4 of a mil out from this one, so I'm going to change both back servos at the same time, same servo horns at the same time. But Trex 150 servo horns work as well, so if you do need horns for these original servos after you've fitted gears, I've only seen the K130 ones available with the servos, so you might want to pick up some servo horns for those as well. Presumably any of the upgrade ones, like the metal ones and what have you, that fit the T150 are also going to fit this. The spline is exactly the same. And the screws fit too. So you don't have to deal with those tiny little nasty, soft, round out Allen bolts that are in the T150 servos. These screws much better. Nice Phillips head to service. The first thing you'll have to do after you've fitted new servos or replace servo horns or anything major with the linkages here is make sure your zero pitch is okay. So the throttle hold on. Mine's over here. Yours stock will be over here. I've just swapped those 2 switches at the back. So throttle hold on. Stick it into idle up. And then pitch to dead center. Now if you look, it's not going to be, I'm going to take my hat off. If you look dead on parallel with the blades, when they're folded back along the boom, you should be able to tweak them with sub trim until you get them dead on. Make sure that this is 90 degrees from your boom and your blades are as straight as possible. It might not be perfect, but this is what you're going for. Sub trim. Hold down mode and back and you'll get into the second menu. Sorry, model select, model type, swash type, sub trim. That's the one we're going in. Now if you click the wheel once and then go up to 6, click it again, you'll actually select it. Now when you move the wheel up around, you'll be able to move those blades till they're perfectly aligned. So double check your center, double check center collective is spot on, and then look from the side. Again, my hat's slightly above, so you'll be out of perfect alignment for this one, but dead side on, you want one blade hiding right behind the other. And when you're done, click that and you're good to go. Back, back, and that'll bring you right into the normal menu. At that point, you want to check you've got even pitch both ways. So, exactly the same setup as before on here. We're going to move your pitch down to the bottom. And again, providing this is exactly 90 degrees to the boom, the head is 90 degrees to the boom and your blades are folded as parallel back as possible, you should have an even gap between the blade tips at maximum negative collective and maximum positive collective. The easiest way is to check that one with a ruler from the side.
Now I've got about 6 centimeters on my negative. Oh, it's just off. Double check. Yeah, just below 6 centimeters on my negative, and just above 6 centimeters on my positive. Okay, now XK is a little funky with your trim, so if you want to even up the positive and the negative collective, if that happens to be off, like mine is just a hair, you're going to need to go back and then just a single press on mode. This will get you into the normal menu, and you're going to go to pitch curve. Now with XK, the first and the last points on your pitch curve will effectively tweak that end. Okie dokie. I only needed a couple of clicks because that's quite coarse, but that's the only way I found with XK to set your max range either way. None of the sub-trim options will do that. And just check your center is all sorted again. Lovely jubbly. The Trex 150 servos also have the correct plug, wiring and frequency to work perfectly, but the cases have pairs of circular wide lugs instead of flat tabs either side, so modifying them or the frame and the retaining bracket would be needed to actually fit them and fly. The second option I tried briefly is the Emax ES9251 servos, which again have the same case size but normal flat tabs, so drop straight in. I use these in my K120, and while they're still plastic gears, I've never broken one in over a year of crashes and use. They feel considerably more responsive and are cheaper than the XK's offerings, plus Emax sells gear sets for about £1 each. There's now a V2 of these, but it's bigger, so it needs mods to fit. I never got an answer from Emax if the V1 was discontinued in favour of this, but many places still sell this, BG being the cheapest. The last option I know of that is drop-in, apart from needing the connector changing, are the HK D56MG. These do come with a partial set of metal gears and do combat stripping, but there's several reports of the case breaking on these, as there's only 2 retaining screws instead of 4 in each corner like the Trex 150 ones. They also need opening and greasing up, as apparently there's just nothing inside there. I may try these in the future if the Emax 9251 don't hold up to repeated punishment, but I don't see replacement gears available for them. These are also sold as the JX D56MG. Seems okay, but like I said, this is the first proper flight with the T150 servo gears inside the K130. Okay, 3G, high rates. Idle up. I feel so angry after the K110. Yeah, I need to actually up the rates. I really love Piro stuff though with this heli. But if I up the rates, I don't think the tail's going to hold. Oh! Oh, I was nearly at a tree there. I was thinking, can I climb that? Not what you want to be thinking when you're flying helis. Okay, now the tail is moving a little bit, even just. See, after the first minute, even in consecutive elevator flips, if you do them slow, they're okay, but if you
Because I'm pretty sure I've got to the limits of this stock heli now. It's certainly with the stock setting, so it's time to up the settings a little bit. And also some tail blades. I think a longer tail blade. It doesn't take a genius to work out this is underpropped on the tail with all that squealing. It has got loads of torque. Just not quite the tail of the T120. K120 even. Or even the K1... Whoa. Try that again. 110. It's more comparable with the little K100. Once you push that and it can't provide enough power for the tail, except instead of just blowing, it kind of squeals. It's so fun to really just slam the sticks. Okay, head speed's going down now, we'll be kind to the battery. Still waiting for these other two batteries to get here. I'd love a session where I could ride out for 20 minutes and then get 3 flights instead of 2 minutes of decent flight. Whoa! And then badly bogging. It is growing on me though. If I can get the tail just to be a little tighter, I don't need full collective hurricanes to be satisfied, but to get sort of 80-85% throttle in a hurricane, tail first hurricane, and not have the tail smush out on me would be really nice. Servo gears replaced, and I've bent back the feathering shaft, so I'm not expecting this to be great at all. But will it fly? How bad will it be? So the tail blade come unglued from the shaft, need to pop that back on. But that didn't sound as bad as I expected for a bent back feathering shaft. Bonus. Okay, a larger tail blade test outside. 3G, high rates, idle up. Finding it pretty hard to see out here actually. Yeah, it still turns a little bit. Not as much, but it is still turning a little bit. Okay, yeah, it's definitely better in hurricanes. Definitely better in hurricanes. Now, a couple of things I want to quickly test, because I've still only got one pack for this thing, so testing stuff is proving quite slow going. This one is a Parrot branded prop. I think they're about 72 or 75 millimeters, so it's loads bigger than the stock one. and this is a right spinning prop that I've got on backwards. Had to drill through it, same as the last one pretty much, to get it on there, but we'll see how that flies. Oh, it might also be terrible because I've bent the feathering shaft back. We'll see. Wow, that does not sound bad at all considering I've bent. Is that still moving in? Aileron. Okay, I've put the gyro down to 0 and it definitely makes a difference. And on some of the XK stuff it's just below 50, self level will be off. Above, or maybe below 25, and above 75 or above 50, self level will be on. But I'm pretty confident here that 0 is a lot less stable. Like on the cyclic, it's pretty squirrely. Wow, that tail. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a huge amount different than stock. Okay, so we've got Parrot prop on the tail here, and it seems to be what it needed. Now there's an K130 Detailed, which I've been told makes the squealing go away, but I'm not sure how good it is. Okay, twitch in the wind there, definitely. So I'm going to take this somewhere bigger and have a good thrash of it, I think, because the last thing I want to try out is max head speed on this thing. So far, stock has been maxed out at 80%. Let's just try that tick-tock again and see how it goes towards the end of the battery. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the tail is like 90% better than it was. It looks like it's going to twitch if I just leave it there hovering. So for like scale flying, mind you, I don't think you even needed it for scale flying. It's only really tail first flying or fairly harsh tick-tocks, especially after the first minute. They're not brilliant, but we'll bring this one in now, take it out of the wind, charge the battery up, max it out and go and thrash it. I'm looking forward to this. Woo! Now I'm pretty confident if it, okay, lower head speed there, definitely has a bit of a twitch in the wind. Whoa, okay, it's quite strong wind. Now if it's going to hold in a tick-tock better, I'm pretty sure it's going to hold in a hurricane much better too. Wow, oh my goodness, that's crazy. Whoa! Come on now, get down. Ah. Servo survive. So, I've got to say, this is really growing on me. The tail looks like it can be mostly sorted. I mean, from those couple of minutes there, it looks like it can be mostly sorted with a larger tail blade. maybe even not quite as large as that if you're into scale, but if you're into 3D, I think this is where it is. Will the tail hold with a maxed head speed though? And that was flying really nice with a bent feathering shaft. I mean, I could roll it across the desk and it would roll, but there was an imperfection in there, mainly just at one of the ends. I think you can see it's just got ever so slight concave. It's pretty mellow, but I'm pretty sure I can see that bend the other way when I turn it up. So the fact that that's not shaking itself to bits is quite something. Maybe it will at 100 RPM. It's windier than I would like, but it's this or nothing, and I could do with testing it in the wind anyway. We've still got the tail blade. This is 65mm, not 75 or 72 like I lied to you in the past. 65mm Parrot prop. It's a right clockwise rotation, and it's drilled through so I can fit it on. I've still got a bent feathering shaft, but it doesn't seem to be a huge issue. And Trex 150 gears inside all of the servos. Changed things around on the transmitter as well. I've still got the gyro down to 0, but I wanted to see whether it was a sliding scale with a gyro for self-level, or whether it was just a switch below 50 and above 50. The only XK model that I've seen where it was a sliding scale, so you could set the amount of self-level, was the little K130 quad. That was really nice. You could set it right down to 0 or 10%, and you could tell the difference between them, or between 90 and 100, and you could tell the difference there as well. Really like that. All the helis I think have been a switch, so I've got way too windy. I can see some throttle holes coming down in the grass here. So yes, I've got that set to 40 at the moment. I kind of wanted to see if it still did a self-level, and it's on 0 down there. The other thing I've set up is I've got rid of normal mode. I've got idle up on both modes, so there's no chance of me flipping and not being in an idle up. Plus, I get 2 head speeds then. Now, I was at 80% or 80 on the head speed flat curve. I've set it up stocked for a 60 because I wanted to see, could it go much lower at the low head speed flight? It feels wrong in this wind, man, it does. And then I've got, hold on, and I've got 60 set as normal, and then 125 instead of 100 as high rates. I think that's all. Let's give it a go. So, let me get this right. We have low rates. I'm already in idle up, so I don't need to click that because it's got a slow spool up anyway. Right, this is 60%. 60 flat head speed, I should say. I'm trying to see if it's got some self-level on it. No, it hasn't. So below 50 is going to be a switch. I think it was 48 on a couple of models, but yeah. It's got tons of power at 60. The head speed's not crazy, but it's got tons of power. I'd probably drop it much lower. But there's a little twitch when I'm hovering from that tail, but it seems to try a few pitch points. No, it held. Yeah, a tiny wibble, but it held. Okay, let's try 125 rates and also 100 head speed, flat throttle curve. Okay, tail moved around as it was speeding up. Oh, bit of a shimmy on the tail. So the tail's moving. Oh yes, too fast for the tail. Now I haven't tried. Okay, we're back down to normal. Back down to 60. Try that again. It does not like it. Oh, stop it. So let me bring this in. Oh my god, that was horrible. Horrible. Please don't be broken. Not until I finish this flight anyway. Yeah, we're good. So, That was disappointing. 100%, I keep saying percent, 100 flat throttle curve. It was too much. The tail just kind of like tweaked around. The torque of the heli was too much. So I might well be at my limit. Throttle curve. Okay, 90 flat curve. Has a little wiggle if you're really aggressive, but let's see. No, it is still moving around a little bit. Now, there is a really small chance that this is because of my bent feathering shaft. And I won't be able to test that fully until I get a new shaft. But yeah, back down to 60. Seems okay. Definitely a wiggle in the wind, but yeah. Back up to 90. Oh my god, it is definitely disconcerting when the tail does a smoosh. Yeah, no problem with aileron tocs, which is lovely because I need some serious practice there. That's full race, 125. Okay, we're going back down to 100. Yes, get this right. Back down to 100 on my rates and 60 on my throttle curve. The wind's coming from in front of me, so towards me, not great. See, hear it squeal then. Okay, coming to the end of the pack now. Okay, so I can still get to squeal, but it holds pretty well. So the only thing I don't know, oh there, squeal. The only thing I don't know is if these imperfections I'm seeing now are in the tail, are because of my bent feathering shaft. So, but it's a lot better than stock, and I'm pretty sure if this is too big, there'll be a sweet spot, a Goldilocks tail blade. We're coming down, we're coming down, we're coming down. Yeah, there's going to be a Goldilocks tail blade. I'll try the Ladybird prop now, but I'm pretty happy being able to speak about the tail performance now. I really wasn't sure before. I thought we were going to have to call this a dud of the triplet that are available. Well, that's not including the scale ones, I guess there's 5 or 6 now. But yeah, I'm really happy with this model. It's not going to suit some people. Okay, we have a Ladybird Walkera prop on here. This is a right-handed prop, but on backward, so it's blowing that way. A little bit bigger than stock, a bit wider than stock, but not as big as that beefy one I had on last time. I want to see if this is still enough to hold the tail, but not too much to make it twitch about a little bit in the wind, hovering. Now I've still got a bent feathering shaft, because the others haven't arrived yet. So we'll start off gyro 0, low rates, no, we'll got high rates up, and we'll 60% flat curve. That's very windy, but it was also very windy when I tried the other one. Definitely a lot more chattering from this one. Okay, I feel it moving a little bit. Let's try. Oh, I am in high rates. Okay, let's try higher head speed. Okay. Yeah, it's still miles better than stock. It's moving a tiny bit, tiny bit. Yeah, a little bit on punch outs as well, but exactly how much that is, I'm not sure. Because like I say, it spazzes out a little bit like that. On the high head speed. So I'm happy calling this review a day. Now a larger tail blade absolutely sorts the tail. Let's put it in low head speed and just have a nice relaxed couple of minutes. Just has so much cyclic power. Rah! Cyclic power, so much collective power. Rah! On a 60% curve. I'm looking forward to seeing just how low I can go on the head speed for just a nice gentle flight. Okay, we're losing head speed now. Rah. Just bring this baby in. So still a fair bit of chirping off this one, so I'd gather a longer one's going to be better than this. It doesn't even sound like anything's bent. It runs really well, it's just you can tell the tail just shimmying around a little bit. And that was the most gentle landing I've had with this yet. So most of the issues with this one can be sorted with a larger tail blade and then either cheap servo gear replacements, which they're pretty cheap and fast to fix, or some metal gear options. Now the metal gears are ones that I'll try out next, but I might just see how much it takes to break one of those Emax servos first, because they feel so much more responsive than the stock ones.
I really did try to make this a compact review, and I did pretty well up until fixing it, but the tail performance is quite a complex thing. It's changed by tail blades and it's changed by the RPM, and it does some things well and some things not so well, such as tocs and hurricanes. It seems a bit of a trade-off there, so it's taken a little while, and I still haven't got to the bottom of how perfect the tail is or isn't, mainly due to the feathering shaft being bent. Over the last 20 flights or so I've had with the K130, I've grown to really enjoy flying it and plan to continue doing so for quite some time. It feels a lot bigger than the K120 in the sky while being just as easy to work on. And if you're used to 1S micros, the power is intoxicating and very addictive. The stock tail is the only glaring weak point, and if you are considering buying this as a reverse flight trainer or have issues with a heli where the tail is not perfect, you are certainly going to be disappointed. This is one to pass up. This is partially sorted by swapping out the tail blade for something bigger, but tail first Hurricanes above 60% head speed still has issues. Add heavy wind and a higher RPM and it's the least capable XK tail by far. Surprisingly, these larger options do hold really well in aileron tocs and everything else I can chuck at you. And if you only fly forward or keep the tail moving such as piro flips, it's possible you wouldn't even notice its flaws at all. The day before yesterday my lipos arrived and yesterday my feathering shaft too, so I'll follow up soon if the tail issues clear up fully or not when the bent part is switched out. As always, links and playlists for everything mentioned in this video in the description down below. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below too, and if this long form review has been useful to you, you can support me by subscribing and of course using any of the links down below to purchase your items. That's all for this one. See you in the next.